Hey everyone, welcome to the How to Play tutorial for the Make Your Own card game. In this video you'll learn just about everything you need to know to play this card game, including how to win, the types of cards you'll use, and how to go through a typical turn. To win the game, there are two ways to do so. The first is you reduce your opponent's life points from the starting total of 40 to 0. The most common way you'll do this is to use your characters to attack your opponent's characters. The other way is to force your opponent to run out of cards. This happens when your opponent is unable to draw a card at the start of the turn. They just lose the game right then and there. To play this game, you will need an account on Untap. After all, this is a digital game that is played on the Untap service. Fortunately, it's free to set up an Untap account if you don't have one already. After that, you will need a deck of exactly 40 cards to play with. You'll also need at least one friend to play with, although you can play with up to 3 other people at once. Let's discuss the types of cards you'll use to achieve victory with. In the top left of a card houses the card's name and its type, as well as any relevant subtypes it may have. The top right of a card houses its power cost. This determines how much power you will need to put this card from your hand into play. The bottom right of a card houses the combat stats. These are mainly on characters. This lists their attack and defense ratings, and these will be used to determine how much damage the character does to your opponent and how much damage you'll receive in return. But I'll go over that when I discuss combat. The bottom left houses descriptive text, which is basically some interesting trivia about the character or situation being displayed in the card. It's not really relevant for gameplay. What is relevant for gameplay is the text box directly below the artwork. This is the ability text for characters, as well as the game effect text for action cards. And speaking of those two types, let's get into the different types of cards you'll use in the game. Characters I've already discussed. These are the main way you'll be doing damage to your opponent. And then there are the action cards, which are split into 4 different categories. Normal action cards are the most common of these. You play them during your main phase of your turn. They perform their effect once, and then they are sent to your discard immediately afterward. Counter actions work similarly to normal actions, in that they perform their effect once and discarded afterward. The difference with them is that you play counter cards on your opponent's turn, usually when your opponent does something such as attack or play a specific type of card. There are also modifier action cards. These you attach to your characters in play to give them a boost. Each character can only have one modifier attached at a time, so choose wisely. Finally, there are terrain cards. These cards go into a shared terrain zone that both you and your opponent can benefit from. And when a new terrain card comes into play, the old one gets sent to its owner's discard pile. The play field is pretty simple. You can have up to 5 characters on the field at a time, and then off to the side is your deck and discard pile. The discard pile notably is where used action cards go, as well as knocked out characters. Starting a game is pretty simple. You determine who goes first. Whether you flip a coin or roll dice doesn't really matter, but whoever wins the flip or the die roll will determine whether they want to go first or second. And from there, both players will shuffle their deck and draw a starting hand of 5 cards. You can also have each player also has a mulligan they can do. By that, they can choose to shuffle their hand back into their deck and draw a new 5 cards, though they can only do this once during game setup. A turn is pretty simple. You start by charging your power for the turn, drawing a card, then you play cards, and then you attack and end your turn. Let's go over these steps in a bit more detail. In starting a turn, you ready your power tokens. By this, I mean you take your power tokens that are on your field that are turned sideways, and you turn them to their right side up position. And then you draw one card from the PowerPoint deck and then you put it directly into play. This is known as charging your power for the turn. And then after you mess with your power, then you'll resolve any start of turn effects that are on your cards. And then after that, you will draw the top card of your main deck and put it into your hand. If you're going first, you won't draw a card from your deck on your first turn. Remember that. To play a card is pretty simple. You take a number of PowerPoint tokens on your field, you turn them sideways, this is known as spending your power tokens, and then you put the card from your hand into play. For example here, to play Delta Warrior Flora Sky, I take 3 PowerPoint tokens, spend them, and then put her into play. Remember, with characters, you can only have 5 characters on the field, and for action cards, you just play them and they go to the discard pile. Unless it's a modifier or a terrain, in which they go on the characters or on the shared terrain action card space, respectively. Many characters in the game have different abilities. Many of these abilities are used by paying their listed power cost. And usually, you just pay the power costs like you would do to play a card. There are also some abilities that activate automatically, such as Sentient Trading Dummy here. Its ability activates when its condition is met. There are also on-play effects, which are similar to automatic abilities, but these always happen when the character is put they happen when the character is put onto the field. Sorry, just got a little tongue-tied there. And now here comes attacking, which is the main way you will win the game. The player going first is not able to attack on their first turn, but after that, if you have a character capable of attacking, you can do so. When you want to attack, you choose your attacking character, and then you choose which of the opponent's characters you want to attack. And then you'll compare the attack and then you'll compare the attacking character's attack with the target character's defense. If your character's attack is higher than the opposing character's defense, the opposing character is knocked out and you'll deal damage to your opponent equal to the difference. For example here, I'm attacking with Matt against my opponent's Kyle. Matt has 6 attack, Kyle has 4 defense. So Matt will knock out Kyle and deal 2 damage to my opponent. Of course, if your opponent has no characters in play, you'll be able to attack your opponent directly. You'll basically reduce your opponent's life equal to the attacking character's attack. A couple other things about attacking: you only get 1 attack per turn, even if you have multiple characters on the field. And once you attack, your turn is over. So definitely make sure you do everything you want to before you attack. Finally, I want to cover deck construction real briefly. As I've said before, decks must be exactly 40 cards. But depending on which format you play, you're allowed up to 1 or 3 copies max of a card. You'll also want a separate deck of 10 power tokens. These are going to go into a separate deck which you'll draw from every turn to provide you with the power needed to play cards. I'll go into more detail about deck construction in a future video, so look out for that. And that just about covers all the basics you'll need to play this game. If you have any questions about anything covered today, definitely let me know in the comments below. And I hope to see you in the next video, which will again be about creating a deck. And until then, good luck, have fun, draw well.